But if you drive at 150, you drive at 200, and then some accident happen, you go to the person who has experienced that accident, and you help them, and you say sorry about that. But then at a good time, you remind them that you don't overspeed. That's how things should be. And we're here naturally. And I want to say we want to engage. We're open to criticism, but I've satisfied myself that almost all the rules, even the smallest ones, of operating the barrage were observed, and the records to that effect. But I also noted something that I wasn't aware of. The two rivers that get into the system below the Vaal Dam, but before you cross, you get to the barrage. And they were so flooded in the manner that almost has never been seen in the recent past. That too needs to count. And so when we talk about, like I observed, I was watching Carte Blanche the other time, and I could see that there is someone always to blame by one party or the other. That's not our approach. Our approach is to say, let's all learn, let us all take the lessons, let's all build into the future so that we keep our management of, because it's a responsibility to us and we can't shake it, we have to, but also allow people who live here to live, but make sure that rules are rules, regulations are regulations, and the floodplain is a floodplain. Thank you.
Minister, can I just have one question, if you would allow?
Yeah.
You've spoken about sympathizing with residents, etc. That is all important.
Yes.
But I want to come back to the point of accountability. We know that a lot of people lost everything in the floods. If you go up to the Redspruit, close to the Redspruit River, there were houses that were underwater up until the roof. And these are very lower class citizens, and a lot of them don't live so close to the Redspruit itself. So you've mentioned now that due processes were followed in terms of opening the floodgates of the Redspruit.
Yes.
When we last spoke to Department of Water and Sanitation, they said that there's still an investigation ongoing as to whether indeed communication did take place between the opening of the Vaal Dam and the opening of the floodgates here at the Redspruit. What is the latest in terms of that? Were due processes followed? Were the Redspruit's floodgates opened in time so that the water can flow through freely to avoid what we saw here a week ago?
Indeed, all the rules and regulations and operational rules were followed. Firstly, internally, the dam up is operated by DWS, that's Department of Water and Sanitation, our officials. This barrage is operated by Water. Now, the first communication rules or pack of communication is done between the two to say, we are observing that the dam is getting fuller and fuller, and up to this level now, we are going to have to open whatever number of gates, first the valve, and then the gates, so many gates at a particular time, including at 1 o'clock and so on, a.m. So they communicated with each other, they assured us, but go beyond that. We're the chairman here of this community who was there and said all lines were opened, WhatsApp group, and he himself took responsibility and flooded everybody with communication as they were receiving it from Water and from DWS. They said they did that, and they have evidence to that effect, that they did send all the information. And they showed us something very interesting here, the warning system that they are using. And it is this warning system that was communicated to everybody, even first when in relation to the weather and so on, to say, this is what we are learning, this is what we're collecting, This is now the hour. This is what we're going to do. And so that warning system, we will discuss beyond this to say, is there an area that we need to improve in terms of its scientific reliability and all of that? Those are the areas that we'll attend to. But ordinarily, all information, I'm satisfied, because I have spoken to both operators from DWS when we were there, Rand Water operators, but also community representatives who are here. And I'm still going to engage the larger community. So that was fun. Now you talk accountability. And Rand Water has accounted to us. DWS officials have done so. The leader of this committee has done so. So everybody, it's not just a one-way thing when it is mentioned, so that people must then start saying, is government accountable? Government, there's no doubt about it, remains accountable. And we need to be even told to account more where we are not aware, or because we want to reach the highest levels that are humanly possible of accountability. Now, if there is somebody whose property was damaged, of course, and we need to engage, we need to talk, we need to look at where they are, what happened. But as I said earlier on, there's something unusual that happened, where people might think that it was just the opening of the gates that affected them or their property. It is not necessarily exactly the same. It's not exactly that. There are those two rivers whose levels went up and in an unusual way, in a way that has never been seen before. And they mentioned those rivers, and some people went to observe, and they indeed bring evidence that no, this river, I'm telling you, it has never happened that it gets so flooded. And the contribution, in other words, a natural contribution outside, in other words, natural flooding contributed quite remarkably to the situation. That is just apart from the dam itself. But remember two things. One of the things is that the dam is on the river. So the river, like any other river, even where there's no dam, they do get flooded. And they do affect people down the stream. But this one, it has a dam on it which is operated in accordance with certain rules, and that was done, and it was done according to the rules, including communication and everything. But that doesn't, I must say,
Minister, can you mention those two rivers? Is it the Ritz?
one of them is Ritz, I think the other one is those are the two rivers. Okay.
So you were saying, Minister, that there's no accountability because there's been.
I say there is.
Yeah, there is accountability.
Yes.
But there's some who saying that there was not enough communication. People were warned about an hour or two before this happened, and therefore people could not get out of their houses. People could not leave on time before this happened.
Yeah, I would want Leonardo to come closer to answer exactly on the 2 hours, because they are closer to the operation. But let me mention one thing. That's not the information that we got from the leader of the community here. Anything that gets closer to that says the following. It says, all of a sudden, the river swelled. And by this time, and he mentioned a particular hour, the rise was recorded at this level. So it's not like somebody slept somewhere and forgot. And remember, you look at this weather, but it may be raining somewhere in Standerton, that is up Vaal River. It may be raining somewhere in some part of this river. It's a large river system. It may be raining even in somewhere in the other side of Free State, like Bethlehem or so. And then the river that gets into the Vaal River system well then all of a sudden you'll see this place getting flooded. So you see, you warn, you communicate, and this is what I believe they did. They're not only 2 hours that is talked about.
Yeah, just keeping in mind that the moment the gates are being open or going to be open, communication goes out. It takes 6 hours for a peak of flow of water to come from the Vaal Dam to the barrage, which takes 74 kilometers. So it takes 6 hours for that distance to flow for the water. So that is why we say that the communication went out in time. If people are complaining about not being warned in terms of the flood that came down the ridge spread, that is something different, because that's a flash flood. It's a natural occurrence. And so there we can say, yes, the National Disaster Center of this area, we had a briefing, Minister had a briefing this morning, that they went and they warned people. And unfortunately, as they were warning people to go, the water was coming, because it's a natural occurrence in terms of the flash flood that happened in that area.
Thank you. Just one clarity, in terms of those who've lost, properties or lost stuff in their homes, some of them are saying that, they want their things to be restored, their livelihoods to be restored. Are you going to be taking any responsibility for that as a department?
Look, in terms of natural disaster in South Africa, you have local government. But of course, we operate quite closely with local government. What we can say is that we are ready to engage with communities and so on, but what we can't say is whether or not we are good, because how do you take just a responsibility like that for flooding? But that is natural flooding. But that has two parts. The first part is not to take the responsibility as to say we are the cause for the natural flooding of that river that they are mentioning. That one is separate. But there's also another part when people experience disaster where they live, without necessarily anyone to be blamed, except for the fact that there was flooding. And so you thread between the two. But if the attitude is that, yes, you cause the river to flood naturally, you cause the rain, that's another thing. We like rain, I can tell you. There's no time when, as Minister of Water and Sanitation, I will say it mustn't rain, and we now have enough rain. There's no such, there will never be such. Because I know in a month or two, this place is going to be dry, and I'm going to be running around pleading with God that just a few drops and so on. So we thread between those two, but of course we have feelings. We have feelings for people whose property was destroyed, and that's why we're making ourselves available to engage with them as human beings.
Just one last question from my side.
Yes.
I promise this is my last one. Have you identified any households that were built within the floodline?
Officials have done so.
And sorry, just to add on that, will you be making any recommendations for those that are in the floodline to be moved going forward? Because you know that this is going to happen.
Yes. Officials have done so. We are going to some place under the tent where we're going to meet those who are directly affected, and we'll talk to them. But as for this, when we were there, I said, are there any red lines in terms of where it is safe, where it is not safer to settle, and so on? And indeed, the indication is that there are people who are living on the floodplain. What do we say going forward? I'm saying we are going to have to discuss possibility of a new dispensation, where if you settle in a floodplain, you do so consciously at your own risk, having been told that in no uncertain terms that this is a floodplain, this has implications. We're getting to a point where climate change is by and large unpredictable, and therefore you decide. So what we want though is going to be possibility of a task team that is set up between ourselves and those who are here, communities, just to improve wherever we can improve, just to make sure that we have similar understanding, just to make sure that we reduce the burden of blame. So from those who want to blame, from those who must be blamed, we reduce it by establishing communication and just work channels where people say, we think this and this because we live here. We think we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. It will help. We say the law, the regulations, the rules, and somewhere we must meet. But if you're on a flat plane, there's always a possibility because you're on the flat plane. But those are things that we need to discuss and so on and improve on them in terms of how best we can all be happy. And so on. And I don't even want to say them and us because we are government.
So nobody's going to be moved.
Yeah, we are the community. No, I can't say so.
Yeah.
I can't say so. It has happened before that people had to be moved, and in some cases, some properties had to be demolished.
Are you looking at that as a possibility?
I'm not saying we are getting there, but I'm not saying we're not getting there. But I'm saying the red line is a red line, and it is backed by regulations and rules and by laws. And a government that doesn't keep its own laws, that doesn't uphold its own laws, is no government. And we have to be government.